Right. So this VOD review, there's 3 things I'm wanting to go over that are probably going to help us. Does anyone want to take a stab at what they are before I say?
Comms.
Comms, 1, correct. So comms, win conditions, and alt tracking.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Wait, I still had these written down somewhere.
So we'll probably go through responsibility in comms for a start. I was kind of hoping that Rix would be here for that, but I guess he's not going to be, so we'll just work through it. So I'm going to ask, there's going to be a lot of questions in this, so I'm going to put this one, I'm going to front load this. So for everyone here, what do you think your responsibility in comms is? So start with Spud.
Shot calling, I know that one. Calling what a win condition is based on alt. Echoing target calls and calling out flankers.
Yep.
Yeah.
And some more there. Zed, what do you think your ones are?
Target calling. Probably helping out maybe in some ult tracking maybe. I don't know. That's it maybe.
Shackler?
Ability calling, peel calling, and ult tracking.
And Cat?
Oh, tracking and like echoing target calls.
All right. So which are what ones of those do you think you should be doing between fights?
Ult tracking.
Shot
Alt.
calling.
Is there anything else that happens between fights?
Plans for the next round?
Strategy, yeah.
Okay. What can you be? What can the enemy be doing whilst you're between a fight?
The same thing.
Setting up.
Yeah. So what would that be coming under?
Wait.
If you were to just say one word for what they're doing at any point in the given game, what would that be called? What type of information is that? What do the enemy team do right at the beginning of the game, and what should we be doing at the beginning of the game to see what they're running?
Scouting.
Scouting.
Yeah. So between fights, we need to be scouting things. We need to be shot calling things. We need to be we need to be tracking alts, and we need to be making positioning plans so that we're in position for when the plan comes into action. What do you think we should be doing during fights then?
Target calling.
Target calling, yep.
Echo calls.
Ability calls.
Abilities, yeah, super important. What else?
Peel
Calling out
calls.
flankers if there are any.
Yeah.
So interesting there. Do you think we're gonna be, if someone's flanking, right, and your team's, say if you're fighting on Ilias and you're on the ruins map, so you're in that square, are your team gonna be concerned with a tracer that's flanking?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Only not if you're grouped up.
So if that flanker is on you and then they get into a position that they're vulnerable, I would have accepted vulnerable positioning as an answer, but not necessarily just flanking opponents. What's the other reason a character might be flanking?
To set up for ult.
Yeah. So what would be super important to be calling during fights that we don't do just now?
If somebody might come up with an ult.
Yeah, so if any ults are coming up during a fight, or if they're or if there are a way to use them, and you're reminding the team how to use them. And then after fights, so after you're cleaning up things, right? What call do we need to make, even if we've won or lost the fight?
What did they have?
Okay, what else do they have?
What are we gonna do next round? Like, what are we gonna use?
Yeah, so you're starting up that shot calling process again. Yep.
Yeah.
But say right the end of your during the fight, if the fight's just coming to an end, what should you be doing? If there's one thing you need to be doing at the end of a fight, once you realize it's the end of the fight, what should you be doing?
Using no molds.
Okay, how do you tell your team you're not to use any more alts?
Don't use
Fight
all.
is one. Don't use ults.
Call winnable or not winnable.
Yes, so we need to make sure that the team knows that if it's winnable or not winnable, right? So there's two priorities there. Who do you think has priority for a winnable call? If someone says reset and then if someone else says winnable, who are you going to listen to?
The person in the fight. So, like, let's say the person who's dead calls reset, and then there's one person still, like, with the rest of the team still in the fight, and they call winnable and they're putting ults into it, then probably them.
So, yeah, would that be... But realistically, if we're setting up comm structure, that the only person that will override anyone else is you, Spud, the shot caller, to make sure that once we realize that Spud has made the decision if it's winnable or losable, we respect that, and then we go back or we go forward, depending on that, right? And even if Spud's dead, then he can pass that duty off to someone else. And even when you're coming back from spawn, right, you can be calling winnable or losable, depending on who you're seeing in the kill feed.
Okay.
So there's four types of communication. Do you know what they are? How you're calling things. So how you're calling things and what you're calling. Do you know what they are? 4 different ones. So you've already said some of them. Okay, then Kat, give me one type of call out that you'd expect to be hearing during a game.
You're cutting out for me. I had just heard my name.
Give me one type of communication that you'd like to hear during a game. One type of calling.
If it's winnable or not during the fight. I don't know.
So what type of call is that? Does that?
I don't know.
Is it like I can't tell you without telling you the answer. So Shackler, what other ones can you think of? What other type of calls are there?
Information calling.
Mm-hmm. So that would be things like information.
Abilities and, yeah.
Yeah, enemy positioning, ability cooldowns, your ability cooldowns as well.
Yeah.
Zed, what's another type of calling that you can do?
Target calling.
Target calling. So that's who are you calling when you're target calling? It's not a trick question. It can be simple.
Targets.
Yeah, you're calling targets, but and then what else are you calling? Say you're on dive, what are you calling if you're the target caller?
Oh, engagements.
The engagement, yeah. So you're calling the when and the where and the who of the engagement. And Spud, another type.
Shot calling.
Yeah, so what are you calling? 3 things, like boil it down. What are 3 things that you're doing when you're shot calling?
What ults we gonna use? Our win condition.
So even further back from that, you're really calling what your team's playing. So compositions. You're calling your pre-fight plans, yeah? But you're not planning, this is super important, and it's something that we're really weak with, is that we trust Spud too much in our plans, so that if we don't have a plan, we're absolutely fucked because we don't know what we're doing, right? But we need the rest of the team to pick that up and be like, or Zed to be like, oh, we don't have a plan, but I can see there's a target here, blah, blah, blah. We're going in this guy. Or Rix or whoever we get for projectile sees that they can have a chance to ult and they call it. That's the plan now, right?
Yeah.
The pre-fight plan can be as simple as like a couple of words, but the team is the pre-fight plan is just the shell of the plan, and the team is what fills that in, right? And then calling if a fight is won or lost. And like I said, it's not just the shot caller's duty, but also people who have a better view of the situation. If a Farah has a better view of a situation, or Mercy or Anana, like someone that's farther back from a fight that can actually see all the information, are really good people to call if a fight's won or lost, because Spud will be in the thick of things most of the time, considering he's an off tank that's shot calling. So, going back to what you said, Kat, so what happens when a fight lasts a long time? Is there... What happens to like the enemy when there's more... If a fight goes on a really long time, what are the enemy gonna get back?
What?
What, say if they've used stuff to engage with, what are they gonna get back halfway through that fight? They're gonna get their abilities back, aren't they?
Yeah.
So, really, the type of calling is apparently dynamic calling. I would have called it something else, but we'll just stick with that. But it's really anything. And who do you think should be able to call cooldowns and ults that are coming up in the middle of a fight, or people flanking to get their ult off? Who should be calling that?
The supports.
Supports.
Okay, but if Zed sees it, can he call it?
Yes.
If the
Sure, why
Farah
not?
sees it, can they call it?
Everybody.
Okay, then
can call it.
everyone.
Everyone can call. So dynamic calls. The descriptor here is that any player can do it, and so that if fights last a long time, cooldowns and ults come back, and because of that, there's more options you can do. So dynamic calling is like a strong point if you're in stalling timeouts, like at the end of Anubis, at the end of 2 CP. Like, you need to be on top of your comms, but a lot of what we've said so far has been focusing on the enemy. What are some things that we need to be calling? We said our own cooldowns, yeah, but what else? If a fight lasts a long time, what are we going to be getting?
Ults.
Yeah, so is Spud going to be able to press tab in the middle of a match and call a new plan in the middle of a fight?
Probably not.
So whose duty is it to make the plan in that case if they get the ult?
Everybody's.
Yeah, so anyone that gets their ult in that fight, so if Farah gets Barrage, if we get Valk, if we get Moira ult, if we get Slam, then the plan suddenly changes, doesn't it? It's no longer just, we need to whittle them down in the neutral fight and use our cooldown smart. We need to be getting that far into position to get a good pull with Orisa with it or something, or like Doomfist gets his ult. When is pull available? Like, that is the shot calling that needs to happen during a fight, and it's not Spud's duty to make sure that's called during the fight, because that's what we're relying on just now, and it's too much for Spud to handle on his own. So we need to be making these micro plans in the middle of team fights. And you do it occasionally, but we need to be doing it a lot more. So when ults come up, we should just be like, we've got this ult, can we use it? What else do you think that does? What else, if you hear someone on your team say, oh, I've got fire ult, and you get your ult as well, what are you not going to do?
Use their own.
Yeah, so you're less inclined, aren't you? You're like, well, I've got my ult as well, but I'm going to HUD my wish, because we've already got a plan and we know that we're going to work with that. And if that doesn't work, then I can say, I can alt this or continue like that, can't we?
Yeah.
Mm.
Right. So we talked about who we think can do those call those ones. We talked about shot calling, target calling, information calling, and then dynamic calling. How do you think, I think I spoke about this when everyone was here, but the two types of voice you can make the calls in, what do you think they are?
It's either like you shout it so everyone focuses it immediately, or you just say it like normally so people are aware. So one will be like the other one won't.
Yeah. So what do you think information call should be? What tone of voice should information calls be in?
Normal.
Normal.
Normal comms, yeah. Shot calling?
Normal.
Aggressive.
So shot calling specifically should probably be in normal, but I see where you're coming from, because if it's in the middle of a fight, that should
Yeah, I
be
was
it.
thinking
But
about
that's
middle of
not,
a fight.
yeah. So that's more like the micro plan that's happening in the middle of a fight, right? That's more target calling, which is what voice should target calling be in?
Aggressive.
Yes. And then dynamic calling.
Well,
Normal.
Mhm.
Normal, or I think
Maybe
both of them are
something in
valid.
between.
Yeah, I think they're both valid. So if someone's got an alt in the middle of a fight and you see it happening, like you see that Ryan's just got alt and he's playing aggressive, then that's an aggressive call. That's like, Ryan's got slam, he's gonna slam, be careful of slam. That's an aggressive call. Whereas something that's just like fires above you, or Zarya no cooldowns. But it depends, because you can say Zarya no cooldowns in a normal tone of voice, right? So if I give you two examples, Zarya no cooldowns, or if I say Zarya no cooldowns, which one are you going to act off of?
Second one.
Second one.
Yeah. So what are you gonna do when you hear that second one?
killer.
Focus the Zarya.
Yeah. So what's probably going to be the precise next comm that's going to come through from anyone on the team?
Target once you've killed it.
No. Right after that you've called Zarya has no cooldowns, what should the team be calling straight after that?
Zarya.
Zarya. Focus the
Zarya. Yeah. So focus the Zarya, or just Zarya. Because you're asking for, you're doing it in a tone of voice that means that you want something to be happening, which is the two separate tones of voice which come into any of these things. So you can do shot calling in that loud tone of voice, which is really like, if it's a really important call that people need to be aware of. But if it's like in the middle of a fight, it needs to be loud. If it's like in between fights, it can be like an information call. Because if you think about it like this, if you're rattling off the information call, right, and someone sees a flanker that's suddenly out of position behind you, or a Doomfist that's fucking used all his cooldowns behind you, what are you gonna call?
Doom no cooldowns.
Yeah.
So if you see that and he's actually killable, what tone of voice is that going to be in?
Aggressive.
Yeah, so the aggressive tone goes over the shot calling process, because your win condition has turned from making sure you've got a plan, you pre-fight checked everything, you're going in the engagement, to your win condition is now to fuck that Doomfist that's used all his cooldowns in your backline and he's weak. So fuck him up, and then it's 5v6 and you just roll them. So that's kind of like how your two tones of voice should be coming around. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So at least once this week, we need to be, I'll probably give you, like, at the start of a scrim, I'm going to start giving proper goals for the scrim. And one of them this week is probably just going to be making sure that we're calling out everything that we can, right? So the one thing that I wanted to talk about quickly was what we're calling as different roles, right? And I want to go over this together because it's important to know what we should be calling so that we can make sure that everyone else is doing it. Or if you're playing a different role, like if you're in comp or something, you should know what your off tank's doing as well as your main tank, right?
Yeah.
So can you think of anything a main tank should be calling as each player? So what would they be calling if they're on Orisa, for example?
The pulls.
Their pools, yeah.
Shield rotation.
Shields, so your cooldowns, yeah.
Yep.
And rotations, specifically for themselves or for their team? Which one?
Both.
Team.
I think.
Yeah, both of them. Probably. Do you think that's only the shot caller's duty to call rotations, or is it also up to the main tank?
Main
Main
tank
tank.
as well.
Because who decides where you're going, really?
Main tank.
Main tank.
You can tell him where to go, but if he doesn't have his cooldowns, he can't go there, can he? So he's the one that has the tools to get you into that position. Cooldowns, we said calling rotations for the team. What else? This is going to be the same for everyone, by the way. This next one.
Target.
Targets, yeah. I mean, anyone can do that, can't they?
Yeah.
But specifically, our main tank is target calling. But what I was looking for was ultimates, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if you hear, for 2 examples, if your Orisa Bong is behind you, are you more likely to go forward if your Orisa says nothing, or if your Orisa says, you've got 50% extra damage, go? Or like 30% extra damage. I don't actually know how much it is.
Second.
Yeah.
Second one, yeah.
You're more likely to actually go forward if you've called it, or your team is more likely to go forward or be aggressive if they know that they've got the backup, right? And it's the same thing I was talking about with following up target calls and echoing them. If you're calling the Reinhardt and someone's backing you up by saying Reinhardt, that gives you a lot more confidence, doesn't it? That means that, like, I'm on the right target. I should keep pressuring this guy. I'm going to use my cooldowns to kill this person.
Yeah.
For off tank, then, say you're playing Sigma. What else?
Rock. And where I'm going to use it and pull down.
Okay.
And also
What?
for risk for pull.
Okay. Yes. So you can call your combos, can't you? You can call.
Yeah.
This is something that I can get wrong, but also, so your main tank can be calling for combos, right? But he's not going to know every single combo or every single cooldown that everyone on his team has, right? So you need to be looking at things the other way around, to being like, how many pull rock, like, I've got my rock now, has the Orisa got pull? And there's a very good chance that the Orisa's got pull rather than Orisa knowing when you've got the rock cooldown. Does that make sense? That way around. So like the same with Moira, like say Moira gets ult. Moira gets ult, right? So she's gonna call, I'm gonna Moira ult or whatever. That should indicate to your main tank he should pull, right? But then if you just clarify and say, pull the main, I'm gonna Moira ult, then it's more likely that they're actually gonna pull there. Or in response, Zed'll say, I don't have pull, wait 2 seconds, 2, 1, pulling now, and then that's Moira ult.
Okay.
What else? If you're specifically playing Sigma, what are some other things you can be doing? Calling.
Call engagements. So like if you've got Orisa and you want to push in with your team, you call when you're putting up a shield to go in.
Right. And what about if you're using, what about your normal abilities? Something that I talked to you about, Spud. That I gave you notes on just like a couple of days ago. The most important thing for you and your Orisa working together.
Is it shield advances?
Yeah. So shepherding your Orisa into position so that she can get into position without wasting her shield cooldown. That's super important. What else? Especially that we kind of touched on this with main tank as well. But what else? If say if your shield breaks, should you be calling that as well?
Yes.
So that's for important cooldowns that take a while to come back. They're really good to call as well because it gives your team and your shot caller the overall vision of what's happening, right? So say if you're on Sigma, right, and if the main support was the shot caller and your Sigma says no rock and then immediately says no shield and then immediately says no suck, whoever the fuck the DM is.
Yeah.
What does that indicate to you as a shot caller?
That we probably need to back up.
Yeah. So it just makes it obvious, doesn't it? It's like, oh, we've just used 3 cooldowns in quick succession and we're like half health on a couple of people. Now we need to start backing up. And it just gives you that really quick, and you can start tallying it up in your head as you go. You're like, oh, we use this cooldown. They use this cooldown. They use this cooldown. Oh, well, we've used this cooldown. We've actually got advantage here. We've got an ult. Smash them. And then it's like, oh, they answered with an ult. Well, now we have to play the neutral fight or back up a little bit here, depending on what the ult is.
Yeah.
So anyone can answer this. For DPS, what do you think? Say, for example, think about playing Doomfist or playing the Reaper. What are some things you can be calling that are super important for the team to know?
Engagements.
Engagements, yeah.
Flanks.
Flanks.
Ultimates.
Also cooldowns, like for Doomfist is super important to know if you can escape on your own or if you need help.
Yep. And what else? What information do they need to be asking for as well? Especially in this the current setup, if they're playing Doom Reaper with your Orisa Sigma and Moira Lucio. What cooldown is most important to making sure that they get out or get
Rock.
Sigma Rock? Okay. I'm more thinking along the lines of making sure that they're getting maximum value out of their ultimates.
Pull.
Pull, yeah. So they need to know when your cooldowns are up, said, and they need to know where you can pull. So make sure that they know where you're pulling and they know when you're pulling. Mm-hmm. And that can be their call as well. They can say where to pull, and you can reply to that with whatever. Mm-hmm. The only thing else was probably call for rotation, not for rotations, but asking when you're as a team are rotating. If they are already on a flank and they need to know when the team's moving into position and you haven't told them, right? They need to know when you're engaging or when you're pushing in, which is good communication between projectile DPS and your hit scan. Mm-hmm. So for support, so say Moira for a start, what are some of the most important things that they need to be calling?
I need to be calling where my orbs are going and what orb I'm using.
Yeah. What else?
Also,
If they're like low on heals.
Yeah, if they're low on healing, correct?
Would they call their own cooldown? So like more like if they've no longer got fade, so we probably like want to back up, or if Ana's got no sleep.
Yeah, or things like other cooldowns, like your healing orb is super important as well. If you don't have it, like if your tank or your main shot caller wants to engage in something, you can say, "Wait a second, I'm going to get orb," so that they can follow you in with that healing orb or send a damage orb, depending on how you want that engagement to go. And then what else? Super important for both support roles here.
Ultimates. They've got them.
Ultimates, yeah, that's kind of the same for everyone though. What's something that's unique to, say, if you're playing Zen and Ana in dive?
When
Peel.
people dive you.
Yeah, so if you need peel, if you need people to turn around and pay attention to you, what tone of voice should that be in as well?
Aggressive.
Yeah, that should be like the loudest thing out of comms. If you're getting hard dove or you can't get out of the situation, then you need to call it. If you know that they're flanking, but you can get out of the situation, what tone of voice should that be in?
Normal.
No.
Normal. So it's important to know, but it's not urgent. Is it urgent if that flank turns into Reaper walking into your tanks from the back?
Yes.
Yes. So you see how it can change pretty quickly between a normal call and a aggressive call. If Reaper's walking up,
Yeah.
just a normal voice, but if he continues walking up, if you've used fade, then that turns into an aggressive call. And then yeah, we said flankers. Next up, say we're playing Lucio, right? What should we be calling Cat?
My amps.
Yep, your heal or your speed amps. What else?
I don't know.
What else? It's just it's a lot of it's the same as what we've said already. But what else should you be calling? What else are you using?
Boop.
Boops.
I don't know.
So what if you're booping someone? What can you do with boop? What gets you maximum value if you're using your boop?
Booping them off the map.
Yeah. So can anyone help you with that?
Probably.
So who can help you with that then? If you're playing this comp with your Orisa Sigma.
Sigma. And Orisa.
Yeah, so you can call for the halt, can't you?
Mm-hmm.
The halt boop combos. And it doesn't necessarily have to be booping them off the map. It can be halting them all together to boop them all back, or boop them off to the side so that they can't engage if they're coming in on an engagement. There's one more that we kind of said for Moira, which is calling your beat. So you should have a lot better of an understanding of when you need to beat compared to everyone else on your team, because that's who you play. So you should be, if you need to beat for whatever reason, if you see that there's two people low, or understanding why you need to ult, you need to be calling it and saying, we're beating now. Because what do you think that does if you've suddenly got an extra 500 HP, 600 HP of barrier?
People go in.
Yeah. So what's the most important thing? This is an off-topic question for everyone. What's the most important thing to do if you beat, but you're already one man down in a fight?
Even in house.
Go in.
Yeah. To make sure we are even again.
So you need
Or even
to,
have the advantage.
yeah. So what type of calls is most important there?
Micro shot.
If you can make that
Target
micro
calling?
shot calling, yeah,
Target.
but target calling is super important there, because it all comes down to, if you can just focus one person down, they're not going to be able to kill you before you kill them, right? So if you equalize, you can then equalize, and what are you going to do? What decision can you make after you've evened the odds?
Who to target next?
Who to target next? If you're advancing again, what's your other option? So say you've used beat, but you're still pretty low in health after the beat has ended, but you've managed to even the odds and you've killed their main player on their team.
Well, to like not go into another person but wait for the other healer.
Yeah, so you can stabilize, can't you?
Yeah.
You can call to stabilize on point, you can call to stabilize, or you can call to back up a little bit. Anything like that is super important. So that gives you an idea of what you need to be calling. So you all know what you should be calling. We just need to make sure that we're doing it in the game, don't we?
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, which, if you're reacting to calls, you need to make sure to listen to your shot calls, make sure that you're carrying out the shot calling. Once a fight happens, you need to be listening to target calling and also making those, you need to be listening to the target calling and echoing it, or you need to be making the dynamic calls in the middle of a team fight and making those micro plans either yourself or with your team. And again, who can call dynamic calling? Who can call if they've got ult?
Anyone?
Everybody.
Anyone, yes. So anyone can make that plan in the middle of a team fight. Right. Is there anything else you want to talk about for responsibility in comms? Does everyone have a little bit of a better understanding of where they should be where they should be calling things out and when they should be listening?
Yes.
Yep.
Good. So,